You know, the stock market can be a pretty wild ride, and sometimes all it takes is a handful of words to send billions of dollars flying in a completely new direction. We're about to break down a really mind-bending example of how one single voice can cause a massive market whiplash, all within just a few hours.
And it all boils down to this one kind of crazy question that you have to ask in today's market. How can a single post on social media
Because the stock of a defense giant like Lockheed Martin to just plummet by nearly 5% in a single day, and then, just a few hours later, have it completely reverse course and surge more than 6%? I mean, this is the kind of market whiplash that can make your head spin. So let's get into how this actually happened.
Okay, so it all kicked off on a Tuesday morning with what was basically a warning shot fired at the entire U.S. defense industry.
Yep, this is the post that started all the chaos. In it, former President Donald Trump really went after defense contractors, calling them out for slow production and, well, some financial practices he wasn't a fan of.
And you can see right away why this sent a shiver down Wall Street's spine. He called for an end to dividends and stock buybacks. You know, the main ways these companies reward their investors. Then you add in demands for faster production and a cap on what execs can make, and you've got a direct hit to the industry's whole business model.
And wow, the reaction was immediate. Lockheed Martin plunged nearly 5%, but look, it wasn't just them. This second bar here shows the entire defense sector took a hit. This was a shockwave that was felt across the industry.
But then, just when investors were trying to process the day's losses, the story took a completely unexpected turn.
Because a few hours later, from the very same account, another post dropped. But this one had a completely different message. A total 180. What was the proposal? A jaw-dropping $1.5 trillion military budget. That's a $500 billion increase. This wasn't just a bump in funding. He was talking about building a dream military. And for the companies that were just getting hammered, well, that sounds like a potential gold rush. So you've got this perfect storm of mixed messages. The first post was all stick, threats to the bottom line. The second was all carrot, the promise of a gigantic payday. And you can just imagine investors everywhere trying to figure out what on earth was going on. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. How did this insane reversal actually happen in just a few hours?
Let's just walk through it. The first critical post hits in the morning. By the time the market closes at 4 p.m., Lockheed is deep in the red. But then, that evening, the second post about the huge budget drops. And in overnight trading, everything flips. The stock doesn't just recover, it surges over 6%.
You know, there's actually a name for this kind of crazy market move. It's called a whipsaw, a super sharp move down followed by a sudden, violent reversal back up. It's really the perfect word for the roller coaster ride Lockheed investors just took.
Okay, so that's the day-to-day drama. It's exciting, it grabs headlines. But if you're a serious investor, you know you have to look deeper than the short-term noise. So let's zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture for a company like Lockheed Martin.
And this quote right here, it really hits the nail on the head. At the end of the day, what really drives a company's long-term value isn't a single social media post. It's things like guaranteed demand from massive long-term contracts. That's the kind of bedrock stability that can ride out any social media storm.
So think about it. While the market was getting whipsawed by all this social media drama, what was actually happening in the real world? Well, Lockheed Martin was busy working on a landmark contract to triple its production of Patriot missiles. I mean, we're talking years of predictable, guaranteed revenue from the Pentagon. That is the kind of fundamental strength that really drives a stock price over the long haul.
So, after all that, what's the big lesson here for you trying to make sense of this crazy market?
I think the key takeaway is pretty clear. Today, information and misinformation moves at the speed of a social media post. The gap between making a profit and taking a loss can be razor thin, and it often comes down to who gets the right info first. In this kind of environment, being informed isn't just a nice advantage, it's absolutely essential.
And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? When things move this fast, how do you make sure you're not the one left behind? To really stay ahead of the game, you need a source that cuts through all the noise and gives you sharp, timely analysis. And that is exactly what we do at World Finance Brief. So go ahead and subscribe to get the insights you need when you need them. Thanks for watching.
Hit the subscribe button to get up to date.